Have you ever had that feeling? You know, that gut instinct, that snap judgment that just feels right even when you can't possibly explain why? Well, today we are diving deep into the hidden world of our first impressions, all inspired by Malcolm Gladwell's incredible book, Blink.
And it all kicks off with a mystery. Back in the 80s, the Getty Museum was ready to drop nearly $10 million on this stunning ancient Greek statue. They'd done their homework. 14 months of intense scientific analysis said it was the real deal. But then they brought in the experts. And the second they laid eyes on it, they felt this intuitive repulsion. Something was just wrong. So, this one statue sets up a huge showdown, doesn't it? It's our slow, careful, logical brain versus the lightning-fast, almost magical power of a first impression. This whole explainer is about figuring out which one we should really trust.
All right, so let's really dig into this case of the Getty Kuros. On paper, it was a priceless masterpiece. But in person, to the people who knew best, it screamed fake. So, who was right? Here's the conflict laid bare. On one side, you've got these world-class experts who get this immediate, gut-wrenching feeling that the statue is a fraud. One guy, an art historian named Thomas Hoving, literally took one look and said, "Have you paid for this? If you haven't, don't." But on the other side, you have the Getty's team, who poured months of painstaking work into proving it was legit.
And this is where the whole scientific case just completely falls apart. Those letters that supposedly proved its history? Yeah, one had a postal code that didn't even exist until decades after the letter was supposed to have been written. The statue's style? Turns out it was a clumsy mashup of styles from different time periods. And that ancient-looking marble surface? A geologist later figured out you could fake that look in a few months. Get this, using potato mold. The expert's snap judgment was dead on. So how in the world did they know? It's not magic, I promise. It's the work of this incredibly powerful computer we all have inside our heads, something called the adaptive unconscious. And a really clever experiment shows just how unbelievably fast it really is. So in this experiment, people played a card game with some good decks and some bad decks. Now here's the crazy part. After picking just 10 cards from the bad decks, their bodies already knew something was up. Their palms would actually start to sweat. It was a physical warning signal from their unconscious mind, way before they consciously had a clue. So how long did it take for the conscious brain to catch up? A lot longer. It took another 70 cards, 80 cards in total, before people could actually explain why those decks were a bad idea. Our gut feeling is running laps around our rational thought. This amazing ability actually has a name. It's called thin slicing. It's our brain's secret superpower to find the hidden patterns in something from just a tiny sliver of experience. That's the engine driving that blink of insight. Now, if you want to see a true master of thin slicing in action, we have to talk about the psychologist John Gottman. This guy can listen to a married couple chat for just a few minutes and predict with shocking accuracy if they're going to make it. And when I say shocking accuracy, I mean it. Gottman can predict divorce with about 90% accuracy. You compare that to the average therapist who's basically just flipping a coin. So how on earth does he do it? Well, Gottman's secret is that he realized every relationship has a unique signature, what he calls a fist. It's an old term from World War II, when radio guys could identify specific German operators just by their unique rhythm of sending Morse code. It was their fist. Gottman argues that a marriage has the same kind of stable, identifiable pattern. You just have to know what to listen for. And he found that pattern by zeroing in on 4 key negative behaviors he called the 4 horsemen. But, one of them is way, way more toxic than the others: contempt. Gottman calls it sulfuric acid for love. If he sees even a flicker of contempt, any statement that comes from a place of superiority, he knows that marriage is in deep, deep trouble. Okay, but, and this is a big but, this rapid-fire cognition, this thin slicing, it isn't always a superpower. Sometimes our internal computer is running on corrupted code, and that can lead to snap judgments that are biased, prejudiced, and just dead wrong. Everybody, meet Warren Harding.
Early 20th century, a political insider saw him and thought, now that man would make a great president. And why? Because he looked the part. He was tall, handsome, had a booming voice. His appearance was this powerful, thin slice that totally hid the fact that he was incompetent. He went on to become what most historians agree was one of the worst presidents ever. This is what's called the Warren Harding error. This kind of error is all about the unconscious associations buried deep in our brains, and you can actually measure them with something called the implicit association test, or IAT. The idea is really simple. Your brain connects things faster if it already sees a link between them. The IAT measures those split-second differences in your reaction time to reveal the hidden biases you've picked up from the world around you. And the results, well, they can be pretty unsettling. Over 80% of people who take the race IAT show a pro-white association. Now, this is really important. It does not mean they are consciously racist. It means their adaptive unconscious has absorbed all these cultural messages that their conscious mind might totally reject, hidden biases that can influence everything we do. So, if our snap judgments can be so powerful, but also so flawed, what are we supposed to do? Well, the key isn't to shut down our intuition. It's to control the environment where it operates. And a simple screen at an orchestra audition tells the whole story. Back in 1980, the Munich Philharmonic held blind auditions for a new trombone player. One candidate played, and the music director, Sergiu Celibidache, was just floored. He immediately stopped the auditions and shouted, "That's who we want!" The snap judgment was pure, it was powerful, and it was based only on the sound. But then, the musician, Abby Conant, stepped out from behind the screen, and the committee saw that she was a woman. Suddenly, Celibidache's perfect first impression was totally corrupted by his prejudice that a woman couldn't play a big, masculine instrument. He demoted her, even telling her, "We need a man." It took her an 8-year legal battle to get her job back. And Abby Conant's story isn't a one-off. Not at all. Ever since orchestras started using screens for auditions, the number of women in top U.S. orchestras has shot up by 5 times. Just by putting up a screen, they filtered out all the visual noise, all the biases, and let the real thin slice, the music itself, shine through. And this really is the core lesson here. Our snap judgments are essential. They're incredibly powerful, but they're also incredibly fragile. The secret isn't to ignore them. It's to protect them, to create situations where they're not corrupted by the biases that can lead us so far astray. It's a pretty simple idea, but it has some massive implications. By understanding both the power and the danger of thinking without thinking, we can start to make better, smarter, and fairer decisions. It just leaves us with one question to ask ourselves. In our own lives, when is what we see getting in the way of what we should be hearing?